Every Tuesday, a guy walks into the same cafe I go to. He pays with cash, leaves a dollar tip, and drives a 2008 Honda CR-V missing a hubcap. For about a year, I figured he was a retired teacher or maybe a part-time carpenter. Then last month, I learned he sold a logistics company back in 2019 for over $40 million. The only reason I know? His accountant happens to live next door to a friend of mine. He's never mentioned it himself. Not at the cafe, not at the gym, nowhere. That's what stealth wealth looks like. And once you start recognizing it, you see it everywhere. The rich don't match what the internet taught you to expect. That big SUV, the giant logo across the chest, the watch that screams the second you enter a room, that's not wealth. That's someone trying to look wealthy. Different category entirely. Today, I'll walk you through 7 things genuinely upper-class people do that almost nobody picks up on. Not because they're hiding, they're not. They just live in a way that doesn't show up on the radar most of us are using. Number 7 took me the longest to understand, and honestly, it's the one that changed my perspective on money the most. Stick around for that. Quick background before we dive in. I'm not interested in teaching you how to fake being rich. Plenty of channels already do that. I care about the real mechanics. Why people with lasting, multi-generational wealth tend to act one way, and why people who go into debt for a leased BMW act the opposite. The pattern matters because behavior usually shows up before the bank balance does. People who eventually build wealth start acting like wealthy people years before their net worth catches up. That's actually the secret behind the title. You don't earn your way into this club, you behave your way in. The money follows the posture, not the other way around. Alright, let's get started. Secret 1. The watch is older than the car. If you ever want to guess whether someone has real, generational, not going anywhere money, don't look at the vehicle. Look at their wrist. A car can be leased or financed. It's a depreciating asset that almost anyone with decent credit can drive off a lot tomorrow afternoon. A watch is different. Walk through any top law firm's lobby in Manhattan, Boston, or London. You'll see partners wearing pieces their grandfathers owned, Patek Philippe from the 60s, Vacheron Constantin from the 70s, Jaeger-LeCoultres that have ticked quietly for half a century. They don't sparkle. No visible rotors through the case back. Honestly, they look a bit boring. That's intentional. A new watch is a purchase. An old watch is an inheritance. And inheritance is one of the few things you genuinely cannot fake. You can lease a Bentley by Friday. You cannot acquire your father's 1972 Patek by Friday. Wealthy people know that. So the watch is older than the car, sometimes older than the person wearing it. When the wealthy do buy new watches, they pick ones that look old. Plain dial, leather strap, nothing covered in gems or ice. The whole goal is to appear as though you've owned it since college, even if you bought it last Tuesday. If you remember one thing from this section, remember this: quality compounds quietly. Loud signals lose value. Quiet signals gain value. That's the entire model in a single sentence. Secret 2. They think in decades, not days. Listen to their time horizon when they speak. An old friend's grandmother, old Boston money, the kind with dead relatives' portraits on the dining room walls, used to ask me about my 5-year plan at family dinners. I was 23. I barely had a 1-week plan. I'd show up for the roast beef, and somewhere between wine and dessert, she'd turn to me calmly and ask where I expected to be at 28. Back then, I thought she was just being polite the way grandmothers are. But the more time I spent in those dining rooms, the more I realized she wasn't making conversation. That was simply how she thought. Her whole family thought like that. The mortgage wasn't a worry, it was a structure. A career wasn't a job, it was an arc. A child wasn't just a kid, he was the man he'd be at 40. A house wasn't just a place to live, it was a property they'd renovate in 2031 and give to their daughter in 2049. Every conversation got pulled forward in time, like water pulled by gravity. Meanwhile, in most other rooms I'm in, the conversation lives in the last 48 hours. This morning's traffic, something the boss said on Monday, the kids' grades, the mortgage payment that just went up, the exhaustion. The reason isn't what you might think. It's not that wealthy people are smarter. It's that they're not exhausted. When your nervous system isn't in survival mode, your brain has room to plan decades ahead. When you're broke, every decision feels like an emergency, and emergencies live in the next 4 hours. Short-term thinking is the price you pay for stress. The wealthy don't have a special gift, they're just not on fire. And because they're not on fire, they can spend that mental space thinking 30 years out, while you're thinking 30 days out. 30 years compounds. 30 days doesn't. If you want to start sounding wealthy before you actually are, this is the cheapest move on the list. Stop narrating today. Stop rehashing yesterday. Next time someone asks how you're doing, answer the question they didn't ask. Tell them what you're building toward. Watch how the room's energy shifts. Secret 3. The 2 nice things. Notice how they distribute money across an outfit. Most people, when they have a little extra to spend on clothes, spread it evenly. A slightly nicer shirt, slightly nicer jeans, slightly nicer shoes, slightly nicer jacket. Roughly the same upgrade across everything. The result is someone who looks, to use the technical term, aggressively fine. Nothing stands out, nothing fails, nothing looks cheap, but nothing looks wealthy either. Now watch a billionaire walk into a coffee shop. Actually pay attention sometime. T-shirt, basic, could be from Costco. Jeans, basic, could be from Old Navy. Sneakers, basic, look like the $80 pair anyone's neighbor would own. But the watch, or the bag, or the coat, one thing is going to be quietly insane in terms of quality. That's the 2 nice things rule. Pick 2, sometimes 1. Spend serious money on those, then let everything else be deeply, almost defiantly unremarkable. Walk through Greenwich or Wellesley on a Saturday morning. The people at the farmer's market look like they just got back from walking the dog. Cotton sweater, faded chinos, beat-up loafers. The sweater is cashmere. The loafers cost what a normal person spends on a vacation. The chinos look like regular pants, but the fabric will outlast the wearer by a decade. None of it announces itself. All of it does the job. This works as a wealth signal, and almost never gets noticed by people it's not meant for, because the 2 nice things are recognizable only to someone else with money. The watch face, the stitching on the bag, the drape of the coat. The wrong people see a guy in a t-shirt. The right people see the watch on that guy. That's the entire point. Secret 4, they never name the number. Pay attention when someone volunteers a dollar amount. The wealthiest people I've ever met will never, in casual conversation, give you a number. They won't tell you what the car cost, what the house cost, what they paid for school, what their bonus was, what the renovation came to, or how much the wedding ran. None of it. Meanwhile, someone's brother-in-law will corner you at a backyard barbecue and, completely unprompted, tell you he closed on a duplex last quarter, the cap rate's 6.5, and the appraisal came in $28,000 over the purchase price, all while holding a hot dog. There's a reason for this, and it's not just manners. When you're genuinely, securely wealthy, you don't need other people's approval to confirm you're financially fine. You already know. Your bank statement isn't a question. So mentioning numbers feels weird, like telling someone your shoe size for no reason. No point. No audience needed. Meanwhile, when your financial position feels shaky, throwing out numbers is a way of asking others to validate that you're okay. The mouth opens because the brain is uncertain. You can actually use this as a social filter. Next time you're at dinner and someone drops an unprompted dollar amount, what they make, what they spent, what their place is worth, make a quiet mental note. That's almost never coming from a place of security. People with stable money don't need you to be impressed. They've already done the internal math without you in the room. When wealthy people do talk about finances, it sounds completely different. Vague, warm, almost evasive. We had a good run this year. Things are steady. Nothing to complain about. No specifics, no percentages, no numbers. The whole conversation happens in code, built specifically so anyone listening can't tell if the year was extraordinary or just ordinary. That ambiguity is the feature. Secret 5. They make you wait. This one is subtle, so you have to look for it. The upper class have a different relationship with time, and the easiest way to spot it is they don't rush. Not in restaurants, not at airports, not in shops, not in conversation. They don't carry that small panicked energy most of us walk around with. No sense that the next thing has to happen immediately. They make you wait, in a way that doesn't feel rude, but rather like a quiet confidence that the moment will hold as long as needed. Watch someone from old money order at a restaurant sometime. They read the menu. Then a pause. Then a question for the waiter. Another pause. Then maybe a follow-up. No one at the table is impatient. The waiter isn't treated like an obstacle. The whole transaction takes about 90 seconds longer than it would in any other booth. And the wealthy guest doesn't notice or care. Same with email, phone calls, returning texts. The wealthy don't assume everyone else's urgency is theirs to absorb. They take Sunday off. They take August off. They'll wait 3 days to answer what you'd answer in 3 minutes. The poor have a saying, time is money. The rich have a different saying, you almost never hear it out loud, but it governs everything they do. Money buys time. Once you've actually built wealth, the point is to slow down. The whole purpose of the money is to stop being rushed. That is the prize. That's the deliverable. Speed is for people who can't afford to be slow. If you want to absorb one habit from this list before any other, make it this one. Practice not rushing. Eat slower. Walk slower. Answer slower. The whole posture of wealth follows from that one small adjustment. Secret 6. They look bored during disasters. Watch them when something goes wrong. Market crash, canceled flight, no-show contractor, kid failing a class, deal falling apart. Whatever it is, watch how the genuinely upper class handle it. They look bored. Almost mildly inconvenienced. No scene, no theatrical reaction. Just a slight shift in posture, a small breath out, and a quiet next sentence. This is one of the strongest signals on the entire list, and it costs absolutely nothing. The lazy explanation is that they're calm because they have a financial cushion. There's some truth to that. If the market drops 15%, someone with a real estate portfolio and 3 retirement accounts won't react the same as someone whose entire net worth is in a 401k they started 2 years ago. Sure. But the calm isn't just about the cushion, it's a learned posture. Emotional regulation reads as wealth, even when the wealth isn't there yet, because the opposite reads as something specific. The person who melts down over a flight delay, who unravels when a meeting gets pushed, who turns a misplaced restaurant order into a public event, they're not exactly broadcasting poverty. They're broadcasting fragility. A small problem cracked them. So now everyone in the room imagines what a real problem would do. The wealthy have learned, through generations of social training, that how you respond to a small disaster tells the room everything else about you. So they don't react. Not because they don't care, but because the reaction is the leak. It tells everyone around you whether you can handle a billion-dollar negotiation or you can't even handle a missed reservation. You can practice this tomorrow. Whatever goes wrong, take a breath, fix what can be fixed, and move on. Don't perform the frustration. Don't broadcast the inconvenience. Treat it like weather. The wealthy treat almost everything like weather. Secret 7. You can't find them online. This might be the most counterintuitive one, because it cuts directly against everything social media has taught us for the last 15 years. The upper class are nearly impossible to find online. Not their businesses, them personally. No selfies, no vacation photos, no restaurant check-ins, no public Instagram, no LinkedIn humble brags about a second Ferrari. Genuinely wealthy people treat their personal life the way a hedge fund treats its trading strategy, completely off the public record. There's nothing to find because nothing's been posted. This took me embarrassingly long to figure out, because in our culture we've confused visibility with status. The more people see you, the more important you must be. That's the logic of the influencer economy. But the influencer economy is itself a class signal, and not the one it thinks it is. The people paid to be visible are not the ones who own the platforms where that visibility happens. They're the inventory, the product, the means by which someone you've never heard of quietly makes a lot of money. Real wealth runs the opposite direction. Almost without exception, real wealth prefers not to be seen. Not because it's hiding anything illegal, but because attention is a tax. Every photo of you on a private beach gives a stranger a map. Every detail of your kid's school is a security risk. Every restaurant check-in is information someone could use against you. So the upper class have an obsessive, unfashionable, almost outdated relationship with privacy. There's an irony here. Absence does work that presence can't. When you're not in the feed, people fill the silence with whatever they want to believe about you. And what they tend to believe is that you must be doing something important enough that you don't need to advertise it. The person who posts 6 selfies a week somehow looks smaller than the person who hasn't posted in 2 years. Same person, different feed, different reading. If you want to start moving like the upper class, start by deleting half of what you were about to post, then delete the other half, then go do the actual thing you were going to photograph, and don't take the photo. The version of you that no one is watching has the most leverage. So that's 7. The watch older than the car, the decade-long time horizon, the 2 nice things, never naming the number, making people wait, looking bored during disasters, disappearing online. 7 habits that, if you start applying them today, will quietly shift how the world reads you, no matter what your bank account currently says. The deeper point, if there is one, is this. Wealth at the top isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, slow, and almost stubbornly unimpressed by everything you were taught to be impressed by. A kind of stoic discipline runs through all 7 of these. The calm, the silence, the long view, the indifference to attention. None of it is accidental. The wealthy have figured out, often without ever putting it in these words, that the real currency isn't money. It's composure. You don't need to fake the money. You can practice the composure. And in my experience, when you start practicing the composure, the money tends to follow sooner than you'd think. If this video gave you a useful framework, drop your comments and like and subscribe if you want more of this, and I'll see you in the next one.